In this edition of Careers That Matter, I'm joined by Alex Vries, the founder of Digiconomist. Very fascinating job, and he's going to tell us what his workday looks like and how he got to be a digiconomist. Alex, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
What exactly is a digiconomist?
Well, that's a good question, but this ultimately started out as a hobby project of mine, something that I've been doing on the side, and in which I kind of combined my history in economics with my affinity for digital technology. And I decided to just initially warn people about the risks of getting involved with cryptocurrencies, any type of risk, because that space is riddled with frauds and scams. So that is a very dangerous place to tread on. And I launched that in 2014. And later on, I figured that in particular, the environmental sustainability of these digital assets was a really pressing problem, and became more focused on that. And that was also when I started to research this topic in depth. So I was diving into the energy consumption of cryptocurrencies, the electronic waste generation, carbon emissions, water usage ultimately as well. And I just wanted people to have a source of information for this, where they could see on a daily basis what is going on when I'm using Bitcoin, because the Bitcoin network doesn't tell you, and the miners in the background also don't tell you. But it is really, really staggering what happens there. So I wanted people to be aware about that. And later on, as that went on, I did more research. I was found more often by companies that started to wonder, like, hey, what is my digital footprint? And they do something with cryptocurrencies, or nowadays with artificial intelligence, or any type of if you're using servers, it's all the same in the end. And they asked me, like, okay, can you help me to figure out what is my digital footprint? How much energy are we using? What is our carbon footprint? What is our electronic waste generation and water use, etc. By now, this is a bit of a mixed research and consulting company that I'm running, where I'm still doing research, not just on cryptocurrency mining, but nowadays also the energy consumption and other factors of AI, and also at the same time helping companies out to figure out their own footprints.
So is this a full-time job for you? Because I'm wondering, what do your days look like when you're working? Are you doing a bit for Digiconomist and something else to help ensure that you can pay your bills?
Yeah, well, my bills are ultimately paid by my work for the Dutch Central Bank. So I also work there as a data scientist 4 days a week. It has nothing to do with anything I do for Digiconomist. It doesn't have anything to do with the sustainability of cryptocurrencies or AI. I help supervisors to make sure that financial institutions in the Netherlands comply with relevant financial regulations. It's nice to be able to do that while I'm working on these other topics on the side, because at least I get to spend my time very differently. The remaining 3 days of the week, and then I include the weekend, I will spend on other stuff, and that other stuff is typically Digiconomist related.
So what does a day look like for you when you're doing Digiconomist work? Are you reading, researching, digging into the internet? What would a day look like?
This is a very fun one, because it's very ad hoc. It's very random. It depends on whether or not I'm getting any questions. So very recently, I've been getting a ton of questions regarding my research that was published last year on AI. So nowadays, I'm loaded with meetings and interviews and introductions with people who want to talk to me about the energy consumption of artificial intelligence in particular. those
It's
times come and go. So
yeah.
this is not something that is going on all the time. This is very volatile. When I'm not in these busy periods, I may be either working on an assignment that I got from someone that reached out to me during these volatile periods, these hectic periods, or I will focus on my next research. If no one reaches out to me, I will continue working on my next research. There's plenty of things to work on.
So if a company approaches you and says, okay, I want you to figure out what our environmental digital footprint is, what's the process that you go through to help them answer that question?
Yeah, well, depends on the question, of course. If someone asks me like, okay, what is my AI-related footprint, and then we have our challenge ahead of us because I'm sometimes dealing with organizations that, well, they will have a supercomputer on premise, which they use for AI, but then also use that for other purposes, and then you can easily measure the energy consumption of that machine itself, but then you still have to deal with questions like, okay, how do we attribute this to AI when this computer is multi-purpose? And it gets even trickier when these same institutions are using all kinds of cloud-based providers, not just once but multiple. They're using Amazon, Google, all kinds of machines somewhere in the cloud for a certain amount of time. But if you want to figure out a company's digital footprint, you need to include all of that as well. Wow. Which can be a pain to get all of the required information complete and put a number on that in terms of, okay, what does that mean for the environment in the end? And some things cannot even be figured out properly because when it comes to AI, if you're trying to do a life cycle analysis, like nowadays people don't even know how long is the lifespan of a typical AI machine gonna be. So doing a life cycle analysis on an AI device is actually a big challenge in itself.
Right. So when you went through your initial schooling as a boy, and then you graduate to go on to what would be post-secondary education, what did you know at that time what you wanted to study?
No, I never had any clue. I always picked the most generic profiles that were available, and typically included some economics. So I ended up, in the end, graduating in financial economics. But yeah, it wasn't something that I particularly wanted to do. I just wanted to keep my options open, so to say.
So did economics just speak to you? The more you got into it, the more you went, I like this.
Well, it's useful in the end. Economics are always useful, especially financial economics. Help you manage your own life as well. Managing money is one of the more difficult tasks in life for most people. So this is actually very useful. But I was actually mostly interested in technology. Ironically, I never went on to study in a more technological direction, but I was always interested in technology from a very young age. I was programming my own websites, building my own computer hardware, the very typical nerdy story. And I guess later on, those two kind of connected, this background in economics versus this affinity or combined with this affinity for technology, which led me to Bitcoin first of all, the nerdy money. First time I encountered that was probably in 2012 before I started doing something with that space later on. And at the time, by the way, I was also working for a financial institution in the Netherlands, ING, a large bank. So I was working in a market risk management role, and that's why I later decided, like, okay, managing risks. Technology, that was the foundation of digiconomist, warning people of all the frauds and scams in the cryptocurrency space.
So what do you think has been your most important personality trait that has allowed you to follow this path and to succeed?
Well, I think that I handle stress very well because if you're dealing with cryptocurrency investors, you get a ton of hate when you write about this type of topic. I expose the energy consumption and environmental impact of Bitcoin. The Bitcoin community did not appreciate that at all. And they have been extremely angry with me to the point of where I got labeled as Bitcoin public enemy #1, at least in France. So, I often deal with people sending messages to me directly, or organizations that I interact with to, slander me or discredit me in various kinds of ways, had threatened me directly over the course of the years. I've been working on this topic for more than 6 years, so I've seen my fair share. By now, I'm very well adjusted to it, but even starting out, getting all that, for some people or a lot of people, it's too much. I had several people or researchers that I know in the past that also worked on this topic, and when they published something for the first time and they got a lot of hate, that was the moment where they were like, okay, we're never touching this subject again. So you need to be really able to handle that, be motivated, disciplined, and just keep going, no matter what comes your way. And a lot of interesting things will come your way when you're working on this topic.
Well, thank you for pursuing your work, for being determined to keep uncovering what the environmental consequences are of Bitcoin and now AI. I appreciate it, and hopefully just getting a little bit of a glimpse into your career can be an inspiration to future leaders as well. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.